glasses.
I'd like to call the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for June 26th to order. First on the agenda tonight, we have a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on the public hearing, ordinance number 1594, adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2030, and ending July 30th, 24, for passage on the third and final reading. Open the public hearing. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Ask the city recorder call the roll.
Allmacher. Mary.
Here.
Quick.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mack.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
This time I'd like to ask the Reverend Ernie Jones to bring the invocation and then lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we ask for many things in our lives. At this time, we're asking for wisdom, for power, and for love. Orchestrate and give us the wisdom to lead this city with these leaders, power to enact your will in our city, and love for everyone in this city. Anoint this time, bless this time, and lead us. In Jesus' name, we pray. Attention. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Reverend Jones, appreciate it. Appreciate your wife joining us tonight as well. At this time we have a special presentation. At the last board meeting, our Mayor Curley brought an issue to our board that he wanted to make a presentation with the city school administrator. So I recognize Ms. Katrina Stevens and the former Mayor Lane Curley.
Thank you so much for having us this evening. Several of you were at the legislative breakfast in January, and you heard the discussion on the third grade retention law. So I want to give a little bit of an update to that and how our students fared. It's important to note that we as educators, leaders, teachers, parents, and the school board were certainly against this law and the way that it stood. But today, as you listen to this presentation, you'll understand there are some positives within the law, and so we always want to find the positives and work toward solutions and how we might work with law as it stands. So the law essentially says that for a third grade student, when they take the TCAP test, that assessment at the end of their third grade year, which has 4 subparts: English language arts, math, science, and social studies, that they will pull out the one subpart, English language arts, and they will look at their proficiency to determine whether a child can read or not and can be either promoted to 4th grade or potentially be retained. Now, what I want you all to understand, and it's really important to be clear about, is the English Language Arts Assessment is a standards-aligned assessment, just like math and science and social studies. So there are academic standards that teachers are required to teach, and there's an assessment that looks at that. So for ELA, there's 5 portions to that test, that 180-minute test that our third graders take. There is language, writing, reading, speaking, and listening. So those 5 subparts are there, making up the 180 minutes. Now, within the law, it's being stated that this is an assessment that determines whether a child actually knows how to read, and we as educators and people that understand the assessment would say that's not an accurate use of that assessment. That assessment really is assessing standards. So in Tennessee, the state average for success, if you will, for proficiency was 40%. 40% of third graders across the state of Tennessee were proficient on the ELA portion of the TCAP test. In Tullahoma City Schools, our initial result was just a hair above that. It was 42% proficient. A positive note that I will lift up is that is 17% higher than the previous year's cohort of students who took that same exact exam. So there was positives there. The state made a 4% improvement from the previous year to this year, and Tullahoma City Schools made a 17% improvement. Now, within the law, there's some positives, there's some caveats. So within that law, there are allowable exemptions. So for students who are students with disabilities in literacy, in reading, writing, speaking, listening, who are served for that area, students who are English language learners, students who have characteristics of a disability in literacy, they can be exempt from the law. And that's across the state of Tennessee. So when those exemptions were removed, our percent proficiency changed from 42% to 52%. Another caveat in the law, third graders can come back to school after school and they can retake the test. Now when they retake the test, the only part they don't retake is the written portion, because this is done on computer. I do want to lift up the fact that these third graders have never taken a summative test before, so their third grade year, the first time they sat for 180 minutes, which is divided into 4 subparts, it was paper pencil. The next time they came in to take the test, it was on computer, and they'd never done that before either. When taking that assessment, if they made a certain amount of improvement, they could move from below to approaching, or approaching to proficient. We had 19% of our testers move to proficiency. Now, across the state, 146 districts, there were only 27 districts that had a higher percentage change. So that was something we were very proud of. What did that actually do to our proficiency percentage? What changed it to 59%? That was positive. Again, we're making these moves positively. The last caveat within the law that's a positive this year is parents are allowed to appeal. You have to meet certain criteria. You have to be approaching to be able to appeal. You have to have a certain score on a district benchmark to be able to appeal. So we've had parents to appeal. Thus far, for those parents who have met the criteria, their students met the criteria, we've had 100% approval of our appeals. We are now up to 76% proficiency. We are waiting on one more appeal to come through that I'm aware of. Next year, a positive change in the rule is we, the district, with parent permission, can make those appeals. Because I will tell you, our summer school staff have done an amazing job making sure they reach all the parents, do home visits, make phone calls, because this year the parents actually have to do that submission. So we've made progress. 39 students in Tullahoma City Schools fall into this grouping of potential retention. Our approaching students either have to do summer school, which completed last week for students who made the 90% attendance requirement, also in law. For those who missed some days, they have this week to get to the 90% required attendance rate for summer school. So our approaching students could choose summer school or 4th grade tutoring. Students who scored below, that would be the lowest level, they have to do both. So some of those students may be retained in 3rd and may be retained in 4th. Again, that's all a part of law. So as all this was happening, we certainly, as a district and as an education community, we talked to legislators, we wrote letters, our board did a resolution, we conveyed ideas, ways to reconsider and think through. Please know that this 3rd grade group of students is the same group of students who in kindergarten, they lost their school year to COVID. This same group of students is the 1st grade students who either were in school or virtual or quarantined themselves or their teacher, so a very difficult year. These same students are the 2nd grade students who continue to have a challenging experience in light of COVID, because in that year we were still dealing with quarantining, although our district was fully in person that year. So this year is actually their first year to have what I would consider to be a normal educational year, and then this assessment is used in this way. So that's been quite challenging. Our teachers and our parents and our students have done a great job in remaining positive through all of this, and obviously now we're at 76% proficiency. That's certainly extremely positive. In the midst of all this, we began thinking about what can we do? How can this work? How can we interact proactively to deal with this particular law? I had a visitor from a pastor from a West Side church, and we met in February, and I was just speaking with him about opportunities, and I thought, you know what? Whew, if I'm a principal, I'm going to flood K through 3. I'm going to take every volunteer you have, and we're going to find ways to have them read with, read to, listen to, do flashcards, whatever it takes. Well, lo and behold, the scores come out. Many of you have seen that on the news and in the paper. I had a phone call, or I had an email from a very beloved citizen who I will welcome to join me, Lane Curley. And his communication to me was very simple. How are we doing? How can we help? It was fabulous. And so I want to bring him forward to tell you what we are doing together as we visit with many civic groups and organizations. And we already have volunteers in place and even processed with background checks, good to go.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens, and thank you very much for this opportunity. I've been looking forward to this for some time. I've had an opportunity to work with Dr. Stevens on this project for the past couple of weeks, and I can tell you without a doubt she is so passionate about helping the children of Tullahoma and striving for excellence in our education. So I'm just so pleased to be a part of this with her. So anyway, here's what happened. A couple of weeks ago, Evelyn and I are at home. I'm in my lazy boy. She's to my, Evelyn, we've been married 44 years. She's to my right reading the newspaper article about this, that nearly 60% of the third grade students did not pass the proficiency test. I've already taken my nap, and I'm getting ready to watch Wheel of Fortune. And she looks over at me and she said, I feel so sorry for these COVID kids. And then she said, Lane, what are you going to do about this? And I said, what? What are you going to do about this? You've got to do something to help. So, as Dr. Stevens said, I emailed her that evening, as I recall. The next day we met for an hour or so. We talked about flooding the K through 3 with volunteers in the community to help these children in the next school year and now from now on forward. So, we've named this program Reading Buddies. Okay. The volunteers will be the big buddy, and then the children K through 3 will be the little buddies. So we have 4 elementary schools. So the plan is for a volunteer to spend an hour a week. That's all, an hour a week in one of the schools. We have 4 elementary schools, 4 grades, K1 through 3, an average of 4 classrooms in each grade, in each school. So that's a total of 64. My goal is to have 2 volunteers in each classroom for the year. 128 volunteers out of 15,000 adults in Tullahoma. That's all we need. So, I think it'll be obvious to you the benefit of, to the children. But what's in it for our volunteers? Volunteers will have an opportunity, some gratification in small victories. Can you imagine sitting next to a child in the back of a classroom or in the cafeteria or in the library, and a light bulb goes off in that child's head where he or she finally grasps a vowel sound or reads for the first time a complete sentence, and you're there. There's an extreme amount of gratification in small victories. I think many people in the community are looking for ways to help children, but they don't know how. They maybe don't know a principal. They might not know the director of schools. This gives the volunteers, the people, the adults of Tullahoma, an opportunity to be a part of changing, potentially, a child's life. So that's what this is all about. It's called Reading Buddies. We welcome any of you to help if you have the opportunity to give an hour a week to a child. So we've prepared these simple little cards. So I appreciate this opportunity. Look forward to being a part of helping the children of Tullahoma and hope you can participate as well. Thank you very much.
Rick Curley, I hope you're, and Dr. Stevens, I hope you're flooded with volunteers.
It's already happening.
Thank you very much for your efforts, and thank you for leading the charge, Rick Curley. This time, I'd like to open the floor for comments from citizens. Do you have some names that you'd like to call out?
John Perez.
John Perez, you're recognized. Mr. Perez, you're recognized.
Sorry, didn't hear you there. John Paris, 95 Blue Sky Court. 2009, I graduated from the Colorado State University with a master's degree in organizational leadership and human behavior. I haven't been here in about 6 months, so I thought I'd make my semi-annual appearance. I got to thinking about what I've been watching over the last 6 months, and it made me think of a research paper that I did for my thesis report. It's from the Oxford University Research. It's in the Journal of Public Administration Research and Theory, Volume 17, dated April 2nd of 2007. Title of the research, Citizens' Perceptions of Politics and Ethics in Public Administration, a 5-year study of the relationship to satisfaction with service, trust in governance, and voice orientation. My intent is not to criticize. My intent is to provide information that can help you do a better job. In recent decades, organizational politics has become a growing field of interest in managerial studies. To date, the major scholarly efforts have been dedicated to the exploration of interorganizational politics based on employees' perceptions. However, one of the important aspects of this phenomenon is the way in which it is viewed by external organizations and environments, by customers, clients, and as far as government agencies are concerned, and by the general public as well. The term organizational politics, of which I call internal politics within an organization, has its root in both political science theory and promoted in research into individuals' political behavior in the conventional management studies that recognize the importance of the informal power game in the workplace. This article is a study of organizational politics in the public sector, this time from the point of view of a citizen as clients or customers of your bureaucratic machinery, and the linkage between citizens' perception of internal politics in public organizations and perceptions and behaviors of citizens toward public government. Studies have suggested that the ways employees perceive the workplace in terms of political climate, power struggles, influence tactics, and ethic decisions are meaningful in many respects. For example, organizations that are perceived as more political in nature are also considered less fair and less ethical over the 5-year study. Furthermore, higher levels of organizational politics often indicate the presence of injustice and inequitable distribution of resources. Studies emphasize that it's essential to know more about the covert side of individuals' interest promotion dynamics in various arenas, which is frequently the essence of any political behavior. Organizational politics in public administration may arise for other reasons. At times, tense relationships between politically appointed rank and file and the professional ranks of the public servants. These tense relationships potentially increase the degree of citizen suspicion and doubts about many kinds of bureaucratic decisions.
Mr. Perez, your time has expired. Could you wrap it up, right?
I would ask a little leeway. I looked last week and previously. The previous mayor spoke for 5 minutes last week. You got another one to speak for 4.5 minutes.
He had time yielded to him to do that. So please wrap it up, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hence, it may be argued that ordinary citizens are accurately aware of organizational politics through various means, such as media, personnel contacts. It is further suggested that organizational politics and ethics together with satisfaction are a good predictor of attitudes toward the democratic system. My recommendations would be, first, to understand that even unintended organizational politics plays a key role in the perceptions of its constituents. If the BOMA cannot enact true organizational politics and procedures for changes, organizational politics will remain at the top agenda in each BOMA meeting. Thus, the resultant effect will certainly be the citizens of Tullahoma will enact significant change with their vote. Lastly, listen to the city attorney. The investigation of accused ethical violations should be decided upon independent committees or boards. When unethical accusations are presented by someone or a group of citizens, the BOMA should not have the ability of oversight of itself. Thank you for
Mr.
your
Perez.
time.
Thank you for your time. Are there any others? Did we overlook anyone signing in? Please come to the podium, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, Mayor. Jim Woodard, 2011 North Jackson. And certainly I don't want to take anything away from what my good friend Lane Curley is proposing to do. And Lane, I appreciate you and still stepping up always to try to help our young children of our city and our community. I've been out of town a little bit the last few weeks. Just want to remind us that I still look around, don't see Miss Costa as being reinstated, and just want to continue to come to the podium and say what a strong, fine woman she is, and I would still encourage our mayor and aldermen to reconsider and bring her back to work. Again, long time to be on the payroll, but yet performing no work for the city. So I'd like to see her still be brought back, and so do hundreds of others out there in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Woodard. Any others? If not, we'll close the comments from citizens. At this time, there's on the agenda, we have a point for applicants for the Duck River Utility Commission. I will note that there was an applicant for that position. Dr. Jim Woodard made the application to serve. He planned to be here to say why, but today he's in Nashville in the hospital having stents put in, so we'll forego him being here tonight for he has a good excuse. So we'll move on to that in the agenda. When we come to that, we'll ask for a nomination for him.
Jim Waters.
Jim Waters, excuse me.
Okay.
Did I say Jim Waters?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you just understandable.
Anyway, moving right along with, we'd like to get into the approval of the agenda. I'll accept the motion to approve the agenda. Motion from Wilson to approve the agenda.
I would like to add something to the agenda.
Let's get it on the floor first, and then we'll come back to motion to approve the agenda.
It's
Moved in a second. Second from Mathis, from Glick. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Alderman Wilson, do you have an amendment to make to the agenda?
Yes. I would like to, and I have printed off an agenda item, if I can pass it around here. I would like to add the Tennessee Equine Rehabilitation Center to our hotel motel tax. And I apologize for the lateness of putting this on. I didn't realize that we'd have to actually ask to add those on. For my background, a motion to add the Tennessee Equine Rehabilitation Center to the hotel motel tax appropriations to receive funding at the same level as many of our major tourism organizations. The Tennessee Equine Rehabilitation Center is a 501c3 and the only animal-related agritourism organization in Coffee County and in the city of Tullahoma, recognized by the state of Tennessee Department of Agriculture. The organization works with multiple other county organizations, including Tennessee Walking Horse Celebration, to increase visitors to the city of Tullahoma. Visitors can visit injured, displaced, and unwanted horses, learn about different breeds, animal welfare, and our state horse, the Tennessee Walking Horse. The Tennessee Equine Rehabilitation Center also offers opportunities in education for animal husbandry and veterinary medicine to our local and regional school systems. Later this year, the organization will be creating horse-related 4-H program for the city of Tullahoma, which is pretty exciting.
Okay, we have a motion to add this amendment. We need a second. Alderman Glick, second. This time we'll vote to add this to the agenda. Yes or no vote on adding to the agenda. It's a 6-0 to add this to the agenda. We'll add this at the end of new business. Okay, thank you, Alderman Wilson. With that, I'd like to get a vote on that passes 6-0. Get a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Motion from
No. I have an amendment.
You have another amendment. Excuse me.
It has been 133 days, to Jim Woodard's point earlier. So I'd like to make a motion to add an item to the agenda to discuss allowing the stepping out of the city administrator's role and allowing them to make the decision to reinstate Human Resources Director Costa Bryce.
We have a motion to add another item to the agenda.
I'll second that, to have discussion on that, and at that time, I would also be offering an amendment to that as well.
At the time that we add it to the agenda, we'll come back.
I'm seconding it, that's what I do.
Do we have a motion and a second to add this to the agenda, to reinstate Ms. Bryce, to direct the city administrator to reinstate Ms. Bryce? Add that to the agenda. We have 4 yeses and 2 noes. So that will be added at the end of new business after the walking horse.
Mr. Mayor, I have an item to add as well.
Okay?
Last meeting, I voted in the affirmative on an ordinance 1595, and would like to add that to the agenda, a discussion to repeal it and explore more options in an upcoming study session.
So you were in the majority on the affirmative on that, and you are eligible to make that amendment to reconsider.
That's correct.
Could you read that again?
Sure. I voted in the affirmative on ordinance 1595 and would like to add to the agenda a discussion to repeal it and explore more options in an upcoming study session.
That's the amendment. Do we have a second? I'll second that for discussion. So that will be added. Ready to vote?
While we're,
Did you have a question?
yeah, while we're on this, just for clarification, I'm all for, is this a vote to reconsider? So then we're voting to reconsider, to vote again on that one, correct? How that would, well, I'll explain the difference. So if we vote to reconsider, or if we motion to add an item to reconsider ordinance 1595, that vote, then that would put an item on the agenda to re-vote for that. And if that vote then fails, right, or say we add it, and then that vote fails, then that ordinance fails. Okay. Well, the terminology, I was just making sure that's what we were doing. And then separate.
At a study session to discuss.
And that, okay. Awesome, okay. Good. I just want to make sure.
I believe we have an ordinance on reinstating, directing the city administrator to reinstate Bryce. Did we get it? You got a second on that. We never did vote on that.
Yeah, we did.
We did, okay, we did, that was 4-2.
Correct.
Now we got another amendment, separate from that one.
Correct.
A separate amendment now to vote on repealing discussion of 1595.
Just for clarity, I would, if that's what we're doing, I would say change the motion, the title of this motion here to reconsider the vote on amendment, whatever, just for clerical, right? Because technically we can't, can we repeal an ordinance without an ordinance? I think we just need to reconsider. The clean way would just be reconsider, kill it.
Correct. Yep.
That's what we're doing, is reconsider.
There we go. Perfect. Sorry, it's just making it look clean in the minutes.
We're going to keep on until we get a full agenda today.
Last one.
Okay. With the,
You got to vote.
and it passes 6-0. With that, we now need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
No, we just vote. Right? We just vote
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Yeah, it's already been a motion and a second.
We got the motion in a second. We're voting. And that passes 6-0. So now we have an agenda with three items added. At this time, with the approval of the agenda, we'll move into the reports from the Alderman. And Alderman Wilson, we'll start with you this evening.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that it's this Wednesday, June 28th at 5:30, the tree board will host an arboretum and tree walk. So just invite everyone to come out to that. It would start at 5:30. And in case you're not familiar about where the arboretum is, it's next to East Middle School. So just come out for that, support the Arboretum. And also remind everybody that this Friday, if you've never attended one of the South Jackson Performing Arts Center Friday concert series, it's an excellent venue. And this Friday will be feature the Stan Allen Band, and it begins at 7 p.m. It's in the outdoor part that's around back. It's really a nice venue. You should try to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, I attended a special called TADC meeting. I was also fortunate to be able to attend the street naming ceremony for Mr. Eugene London Sr., a well-deserved honor and tribute to one of Tullahoma's finest citizens. Special thanks to Kurt Glick and this board for making it happen, for Winston Brooks. It was a really nice and well-done ceremony. Last week, I also attended the Juneteenth celebration at Jefferson Street Park. Special thanks to Miss Jamie Moorhead for the terrific job she did pulling it all together and putting on a successful event. Finally, I want to remind everyone that the last meeting we have to donate school supplies and fill these backpacks is our July 10th meeting, I believe. So please remember to bring and donate what you can. It is definitely needed and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, I also attended the Juneteenth celebration at Jefferson Street Park. Attended an event at South Jackson. I kind of bebopped all over the place. At a school board meeting, those are always a pleasure. And we had a planning commission and a BOSA meeting. That's it.
Alderman Glick.
I also attended the Eugene London street naming ceremony. It was a very nice ceremony. I was honored to present the street sign to Mr. London, a very well-deserved thing for him. And then I also want to remind everybody about the cell phone service in our town, and re-give out those phone numbers again for everybody to call to try to get them to improve our cell phone infrastructure here in town. Those numbers are 1-800-922-0204, or from a Verizon device, you can dial *611. And just let them know that you're dissatisfied with the service we're receiving in Tullahoma, and hopefully it'll improve soon. That's all I have.
Alderman Mathis.
I too attended Mr. London's benefit. It was very, very well attended. Eugene did a lot of umpiring for me during my time as head baseball coach, and a lot of the times he would get himself into a bind. And I would walk out there and I'd say to him one time, I said, now Eugene, he knew he was going to get blasted. And instead I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I went, Eugene, yeah, how's your family? And he didn't know what to say. He just stood there, said that nothing. So anyway, Eugene is a special individual, very, very well maintained on the diamond. He does a great job, just a great individual, very well organized, very well implemented as well.
Well said. Regarding Mr. London, I also had an opportunity to work with Mr. London as a TSSAA basketball official, and it's always exciting when Eugene was on the basketball court. And I also want to comment on our Parks and Rec department for the wonderful job they did weekend before last in putting on a softball tournament. How many teams, JP?
About 500 people.
About 500 players on the field. So it was quite a day for softball in Tullahoma. Well, tonight, please bear with me, but it's time for the mayor's State of the City and Budget Address. So I'll be passing out copies of this in case you miss anything. I'll pass these out after I've read it. And it's about 11 minutes to give you a heads up. I want to talk about how proud we are of our past and how we're planning for our future. Tullahoma is a vibrant economic hub and a city on the move, a tourism destination with natural assets, a culture of innovation and aviation testing technologies and medical services, a proud, attractive, and walkable community with great schools and diverse housing and small town lifestyle. In Tullahoma, you'll find a strong sense of community, a thriving business climate, and a high-quality workforce, all in an ideal location with easy access to major metros, recreational lakes, distilleries, and aviation assets. The U.S. Air Force Arnold Engineering Development Complex continues to be the economic engine for our region, and Tullahoma is positioned as the business hub for the region serving AEDC. Last year, based on Tullahoma's support of AEDC and all military personnel, the Association of Defense Communities recognized to recognize Tullahoma as a great American defense community. And the city was one of only 5 nationally to receive that recognition, and was the smallest region to receive the honor. Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce commemorated the city's promising future by recognizing 40 young professionals under 40 years of age. These young people exemplify the talent and leadership of today, as well as a reason to expect the continued economic growth and robust business climate that Tullahoma experiences. Kudos to the Chamber, also as they celebrated their 100th year of supporting local business and entrepreneurs. Each of these anniversaries is a statement to the character of our city. We're a great location for business. Our school system and the many extracurricular activities and sports programs are excellent. We now know how to innovate and to take advantage of the many opportunities available in our area. As far as our economic strength and resilience goes, Moody's Investment Services has continued to assign the city an AA2 bond rating. That's the 3rd highest rating out of 21 and one of the highest in the state. The AA2 rating reflects the city's moderately sized and growing tax base, healthy financial position with stable reserve levels, and manageable long-term liabilities. Additionally, the current edition of the Site Selection magazine named Tullahoma as the #1 micropolitan in Tennessee. These 2 independent measures reflect our financial strength and show that we are well positioned for growth. Another measure of Tullahoma's economy, and one that we are particularly interested in at budget time, is sales tax growth. Although our property tax base has remained relatively flat, retail expansion continues to generate sales tax to support the city's services and infrastructure. Sales tax essentially funds 1/3 of the city's budget. Our sales tax growth is up 8.7% year to date for FY23, and for FY24 budget anticipates we will generate another 8% increase in the upcoming year. The Tullahoma Airport continues to be recognized for its strong economic impact and is one of the top-rated general aviation airports in the state. It's supported by fuel sales and hangar leases. In addition to the many business and personal aircraft based there, the airport is also used for military exercises. Tennessee skydivers are also based there. The Tennessee Department of Transportation has determined through a year-long statewide aviation impact study that the Tullahoma Airport has had a $21 million economic impact on our area and ranks William Northern Field as the 2nd most impactful airport in its region. I'm very proud of our airport's contribution to Tullahoma and look forward to more aviation-related businesses selecting our 100-acre airport business park as their new home base. Tullahoma also excels as a medical and technical hub. We're fortunate to have Vanderbilt Tullahoma Heart and Hospital as in our community with their 135-bed facility. The doctors' staff strive to provide the highest quality service to their patients in a safe, compassionate, and efficient manner. The hospital attracts many doctors, specialists, and other healthcare professionals to our area. Their helicopter life flight service is a welcome addition to our city. Lastly, while discussing Tullahoma's future, the most important factor to consider is the quality of education in Tullahoma. Tullahoma City schools are known statewide for many programs. Our academic test scores are some of the strongest in the state, and our teams, such as the Future Business Leaders of America, win state accolades annually. THS also partners with Motlow and other colleges for dual enrollment opportunities. We're known for our award-winning music programs, STEM classes, a new aviation technology program, and a strong career technical education option. TCS recently completed their 5-year strategic plan, which identified the key focus areas as facilities, Tullahoma Virtual Academy, and school-to-work pathways. Under facilities, the largest project currently is the rebuilding of Jack T. Fair Elementary School, which is being financed through a low-interest general obligation bond fund. This is one of the benefits of enjoying a high Moody's bond rating. Tullahoma is understandably proud of our school system and its foundation that it gives our young people to succeed in whatever path they choose to undertake. So as we grow our community and our new businesses, hopefully these talented young people will find career opportunities in this area. And businesses will also be attracted by our talented workforce, and new graduates will be attracted to quality jobs. And that's how our community will continue to thrive. Tullahoma's diverse economy, our strong entrepreneurial sector, and quality of life ensure that we'll continue to attract both private and public investments. We continue to work with Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation to recruit new business and to assist our current businesses by providing training, marketing, and expansion funding. We currently offer 2 commercial and small business loan programs geared toward job retention, recruitment, and retention and new business startups. So now, planning for the future. Well, our city board failed to adopt the Think Tullahoma 2040 comprehensive plan as initially submitted to the city through the Tullahoma Regional Planning Commission, and the Community Planning Development Committee is preparing to make the necessary changes to our current plan. Looking back over the past year's planning and codes activities, some of the volume statistics are of interest. We had 5 rezoning applications, 5 zoning variance requests, 3 zoning ordinance and subdivision regulation amendments, 17 new home occupation permits, 23 subdivision applications, 6 of which were major, creating 362 new lots, and approximately 38 additional new homes were constructed. So looking ahead for the following year, our Planning Commission will be considering the following: complete and adopt revision to the 2011 Comprehensive Plan, consider the administration of the Eastern Gateway for the South Atlantic Anderson Street, that's continued administration of Cedar Lane grant for a study of corridor improvements, continued discussion with Motlow regarding the Greenway connection for our campus to the city. As far as capital improvements go, as we look ahead, this will be another unique year in terms of the availability of significant levels of one-time federal and state funding that will be used to support capital projects and infrastructure. As mayor, I'll work with the city administrator and the aldermen to develop a 5-year capital improvement plan that will prioritize projects for completions in the 24 and 28 year, including the available American Rescue Fund plan funding. We're soon to complete over $5 million in sidewalk improvements, street paving, and public safety equipment. Additionally, we were just notified of an approval for a $2 million grant to match the ARP funds for much-needed stormwater and drainage improvements. The board is also contemplating issuing debt for building repairs, paving sidewalks, and completion of many other of our parks programs, including the installation of restrooms and pavilions. So now, implementing the vision with this year's budget. Each year, our budget is a step in implementing the vision of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the citizens of Tullahoma. In addition to maintaining our ongoing programs and services in an efficient and effective manner, the budget has 2 primary focuses: the addition of student resource officers at all of our school buildings and funds for road paving and repairs. Through the use of local sales tax and state grants and some reserve subsidy, we're able to fund both of those priorities without a property tax increase. Citizens should stay tuned for more information on the upcoming capital programs and projects that we're expecting to be an exciting year for a new recreation and parks program and improvements in those facilities. I'd like to thank my fellow board members, as well as the interim city administrator, finance director, and department heads for the teamwork and collaboration to develop this document and provide quality services to our citizens in a most effective manner. I'd also like to thank all of our city employees. Our city runs on its employees, and we're fortunate to have some of the best. Thank you. With that, I'll pass around a copy to each of the aldermen. And for you. And with that, I'd like to, this is an additional part of my mayoral report, I'd like to announce that I have appointed a member to the Tullahoma Housing Authority. We had the members who submitted an application as to serve on that capacity, and I have advised her of that. So Misty Dameron has been appointed to serve through October 31, 2025 on the Tullahoma Housing Authority. So with that, we'll move on to a report from our city attorney.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Stevens and Mayor Curley for presenting an opportunity for all of us to help with the literacy of the children of our town, and I want to turn in my application here to serve as an advisor to that. Lane? And I urge all of you to do that. 1 hour plus a week to help those children be a great thing for our community. Secondly, I want to report to you that I did call Verizon, Mr. Glick, and I waited for over a half hour before I could talk to anyone. And I'm not fluent in the language in which the gentleman's speaking. I did finally get my information to him, and it was reported to another department, and hopefully they noted that. Whether or not it does any good, I don't know, but I think that someone is applying for a cell tower in Franklin County in the southern part of our town that may come into fruition pretty shortly. I think they're working with the Planning Commission with that matter and with Ms. Samaniego about that now. I talked with one of our aldermen this afternoon, Derek, and the Tennessee Municipal League was having their annual conference in Nashville on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of July. I'm going to be there attending the Tennessee Municipal Attorneys Association conference at that same time, and I urge all of you to go to that. You'll gain a lot of very valuable experience that will help you in governing our town, and the city will pay your expenses, and so I urge you to do that. I hope you do, and then I hope to see you all there. I'd like to announce that on July the 10th, that's the next board meeting at 4 p.m., we will have an executive session, and I've contacted all the attorneys that will be representing the city in ongoing litigation. They all will be present at that session that day. 4 o'clock, July 10, in the police conference room, police station. Today, we completed the transaction with the Harton family partners in relationship to the land exchange to straighten out William Northern Boulevard, and that deed was recorded, and we now have it, and I've delivered it to the city recorder for safekeeping. And understand that the Board of Adjustments and Appeals approved a variance for the motel that we built there so that they can move forward with their construction very soon. The only other item I want to report is that we're in ongoing effort to resolve and to move forward with the completion of a contract relative to the sale of the East Carroll Street property known as the old Rock 10 building, and we are in contact with the purchaser's attorney, and we're working out some details now. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow, some of the members of the mayor and members of staff to work on some of the matters relative to that thing, and hopefully it'll all work out very quickly. Any questions from anybody?
Thank you, Mr. Worsham.
Thank you.
A report from our city administrator.
Of course, last week we had our capital improvement projects meeting. We went over quite a few different funding ideas, things of that nature. I wouldn't be able to do the job that I do without the people that work with us. And as you said, Mayor, our people are most important. Are most important to us. Sue Wilson has done a wonderful job on the budget, getting everything together. Our Parks and Recreation are doing great. You talked about that softball tournament last week. They actually had every ball field in Tullahoma taken up that day. They even had people at the East Middle that were playing ball. That same softball tournament that you were at Johnson Lane Park, they had to move some people over to the East Middle Park to continue the games. They also had ball tournaments that were going on at Cascade and at Wagner. They had 6 to 8 teams over the last 2 weeks, 500 to 600 people per event that we've had. So they've had quite a bit of accomplishment with that. I was able to attend and help with the Eugene London street naming. I thought it was a very fitting and very humbling experience. He's been with our city for so many years, and over the years I've seen him ref and umpire so many different games, and it is always an enjoyment to watch him do the thing that he loved to do. I would want to remind us that we have July 3rd celebration, our fireworks. Parks and Recreation has been working very hard on that as well. That'll be a week from today, isn't it? And since we're going to have a shorter week next week, with the 4th being off for the city, we're going to extend the agenda packets will go out on Thursday that week, so we have that extra day to put those on. But that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Berry.
Tournament talk made me remember our Tullahoma 12U Our Tullahoma 12U All-Stars play tonight in the first round of the district championship. 7 o'clock is, and I'm not sure if that's at Wagner or Cascade, but congratulations to our All-Star teams, and I believe one of our other ages.
I think AU made state.
AU made state.
Wasn't it AU? Yeah, AU made state, so they're going state as well.
Congratulations to all. That's exciting. That's exciting.
Very good. Then we'll move on into the consent agenda. I will read the caption for the first 4 items on the consent agenda. And those are the minutes from our June 12th meeting. And the next item is to approve the annual renewal of a memorandum of understanding, permit the Tennessee Correction Academy to use city stamps as a temporary shelter. Approve the journal entries for property taxes adjustments detailed on page 41, if you care to look at those. And the item number 23-119, request to authorize the police department to apply for an SRO grant for the state of Tennessee in the amount of $75,000 per eligible school. With that, on item number 23-120, I'll give you the substance of that. To set a public hearing for the first reading for July the 10th. And this is on a request to rezone properties, and these properties are essentially properties that are in areas that are non-conforming. The intent of this public hearing is to people to discuss those items that are to be rezoned so that they will be conforming, and that people who need to make modifications to their homes or whatever, that they can do it with the proper zoning. So with that, motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Mann, seconded by Berry. Or vice versa. Any discussion? Ready to vote. And the consent agenda is approved 6-0. Under unfinished business, ordinance number 1594, an ordinance of the city of Tullahoma adopting an annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year July 23rd through ending 2024. Passage on the third and final reading. Motion. Ordinance from Berry, seconded by Mathis. In discussion. Ready to vote. Excuse me. We have Ms. Wilson, do you want to be recognized?
I think we need an amendment.
Yes, Mayor, there will need to be a motion to amend the budget, the ordinance to accept all items as presented, so it can include the SROs, include the schools' budgets.
Motion.
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend. Seconded by Mathis. In discussion.
I do have a quick question. So if my agenda item passes, would that need to be on there too?
If your item passes, we will actually bring a resolution back to the board to change, we would change the motel tax resolution. And at that point, either you would need to change it between the split between the other organizations, or we would need to look at using reserves to fund that, depending on what you decide to do.
So if it passes, then it'll be something that I put back on later once we.
We bring it back probably next meeting on July 10th, and then that's when.
Okay. Thank you.
Ready to vote? Budget passes 6-0. Ordinance number 1596, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tullahoma, which is ordinance number 1392 by amending Article 4 specific district regulations, Section 405 for microbrewery use. That's for passage on the second and final reading. Second from Barry, seconded by Van. Any discussion? Ready to vote? (1596) passes 6-0. There's no other unfinished business. We'll move into new business. The details of this are on page 119. I know you've had an opportunity to look at it, but I'll read the caption. It's an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance in the City of Tullahoma, amending the Title 13 of property maintenance regulations. Chapter 3 for slum clearance. Section 308, lien for expenses, sale of salvaged materials, other powers not limited. To remove the words upon the lien and substitute therefore the words become a lien. This is for the passage on the first of two readings. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. In discussion. Ready to vote. Alderman Wilson.
I don't really like the language that we're adding the fines to the owner's property taxes. That seems like if somebody has a code violation that it would be added onto the I mean, I understand that it's a lien, which is different, but in the ordinance language, it says, whereas the board of the mayor and alderman desires to add the fines to the owner's property taxes. That seems like that we're making the fines part of the property taxes, which am I incorrect on that, Mr. Worsham?
Attorney Worsham, you've been working diligently on this.
Actually, this ordinance is only to correct a typographical error in our Code of Ordinances now. If you read the sentence, if it says upon the lien, it doesn't make sense. So become a lien does make sense. It's been an ordinance for a long time. If a judgment is rendered against a property owner because they have violated our Code of Ordinances in some way relative to property maintenance or things of that nature by the administrative hearing officer, then we have several alternatives to how we can collect the fine that may be assessed against that, either by collection of a fine in the normal way or by an action in General Sessions Court to collect the debts. We could do that, or simply add that fine to their property taxes, and they would pay that along with their property taxes next year. We're not required to do it. This allows us to do it if we choose to do that, if they don't pay the fine. And it's not fair to property owners who do pay their fines for people who don't to be able to go scot-free.
So in essence, if somebody had some fines, say, whatever, it could be a tree that they needed to take down or whatever, and those were added to the property taxes, then they could lose their property because they can't pay their property taxes. And it would be because of some code violations? If
they lost their property because they couldn't pay their property taxes, that would happen whether or not this fine was attached onto that.
But if it was, some fines can accrue, and if it's added to their property taxes, that might make it so they can't pay their property taxes, right? I mean... Well,
in an isolated situation, that might be true. It's not mandatory that we do this. It gives us the right to do it if we wish to do that. But we've typically worked with people. They can pay their property taxes incrementally rather than all at one time. And there are a lot of things that we can do to help property owners so that they won't lose their property. We haven't had a tax sale for a number of years, although we've been working toward one for some time. so that I don't think it's going to be a significant impact on this, but this is really just to, again, correct an error in.
Because I'm all for if they're putting a lien maybe on someone's property. That way, if they had to sell the property, then that's how we could get back our
And that's generally how we collect that, Ms.
to
Wilson.
put it
in
on
that
top
way.
of to add it to the property taxes, that doesn't seem right to me. I may be the only one. I don't know.
Well, two things could happen. That if we weren't going to pursue a property tax sale, we could collect it a different way if we thought that it was prudent to do that and more expeditious to do it. The other is that if they were to refinance the property or sell it, we could collect it in that way. So we have the option to do this as one of the remedies that we have available to us.
Any further discussion? We're ready to vote. That passes 6-0. Would the following item, 23-121, is consider approval of directing staff to draft an ordinance amendment ordinance number 1595 establishing the Board of Appeals. I'll just look to the board for guidance and get your thoughts. Perhaps we should wait for that until after we've had the discussion that we've added to do some.
Move it to the last item.
Till the very last item. I see some heads nodding, so we'll do that. We all concur. If necessary. Okay. Now we want to consider the nomination and appointment of an applicant to fill the vacancy on Duck River Commission for a full 3-year term. That's the one I mentioned earlier, that Jim Waters could not be here because he planned to be here, could not be here because he's having stents put in Nashville today. But he has indicated his willingness to serve, and he has been, Mr. Breaker from the Duck River Utility Authority contacted me, saying what a good candidate Alderman Waters would be, and I'd like to put his name in nomination to serve on the DRUC. Get a second.
Got it.
Got a very good second. Any discussion? Ready to vote. That passes 6-0. We hope Mr. Waters does well. With that, we get down to adding the item that Alderman Wilson brought forth. And Alderman Wilson, you pretty well read that pretty well into the record already, and we have a copy of it. So to get that on the agenda, we need a motion and a second. Have a motion by Mann and a second by Glick. Any discussion on moving the hotel tax to help fund this? Ready to vote? Oh, excuse me, Alderman Berry, you're ready.
Just a couple. So we're talking about using the hotel motel tax for that. So I do have a couple questions just because of where we're asking for it to come from. And I see some things in here, but do we know how many visitors per year they receive?
I don't know that. They have plans to open up to create a 4-H program and things of that nature. They also feel the need with, there's a lot of tourism kind of with the celebration. I mean, that's a huge thing in Shelbyville. And I think that we're kind of missing the boat. A lot of people that attend that look for places, to board their horses, or I think there could be a lot of networking that we could do and tourism that we could get in to our city just based on that alone. But that coupled with the 4-H program, I think that it definitely would be an agritourism, which would be the motel tax since it's based on tourism.
So So the hotel motel, that's heads and beds is what that is kind of called. So the money that we get in there is when somebody comes to Tullahoma and stays the night, that lodging tax that we get, that's what our hotel motel tax is. And I think that it sounds like a great opportunity, but, I don't know, if they get 10, 20, 30 visitors a year, depending on how much we're, if we're putting, I like to be stingy with our tourism dollars, because we should be investing into things that are going to bring more heads and beds. So that would be another question I have is, how many of those visitors are overnight visitors? And then, when we talk about the hotel motel tax, so that's not a hard dollar amount, right? That's we divvy that by a percentage. So when we talk about the same level as many of our major tourism, I don't know that I'd count this as a major tourism when you compare, Jack Daniels is our largest. I know that they're not here, but that is our largest tourism draw into Tullahoma. The base, we probably don't think about that, but when you're talking about hotel motel tax, that's probably up there. South Jackson Civic Center, Beechcraft, those are George Dickel. Those are our kind of our major, the chamber, because they do help with the tourism. So what I would say to this is we'll have another opportunity, correct me if I'm wrong. Sue, do these come back to us, like we approve the nonprofits and stuff, in these separate, right? So we've got...
You will do an affirming resolution later, coming up on the next one, before we can do disbursements. But the budget is essentially putting together what we're going to do with the funding on it, and then you will affirm it later through a resolution.
So I think that it's a great program, but for me, right now, it'd be a no. But I would say if we can get answers to these questions for the next board meeting, and then let's talk about, if they are getting 100 visitors, if they're getting 200 visitors, then let's take a look at, figure out an actual kind of percentage-wise that makes sense to the number of what they're doing, and then what they want to specifically. I don't like using tourism dollars to pay operating expenses, right? It should go to a specific event or a marketing promotion, whether it's one of these other agencies to where we're using that money to bring more money in. It's kind of that would be my thing is I would say let's consider, I won't make it your motion.
Alderman, man, you recognize?
I'm good, actually.
I'm good.
I think this is a fairly new facility, is it not? And I think what they are trying to do is grow their, just like you're saying, is us putting our money into it is going to help bring more money back into town. I think what they're looking for here, is what I understand, is them to grow the tourism opportunity, and I think that would be a good use of our tourism dollars. It could be revisited every year, but I think that's kind of what this money would be for, is to help these people start a thing with this concept that they're working on to draw more tourism into Tullahoma and help them realize that. And I think they will with the concept they've had. So I think it would be a good use. And it doesn't have to be the same percentage of all the other things that you said out there, because as Sue mentioned, we'll have to vote on to divvy up the percentages amongst the people, so it wouldn't have to be on equal ground with the proven categories of people out there right now. So I think we should vote to add this on to that.
Alderman Wilson.
Yeah, and I agree. It is newer, but I think that we have a lot of untapped potential here, because when there are large events in Shelbyville with the celebration and the walking horse and the different things that they have over there, they actually sell out of hotels in Shelbyville, and they are kind of staying here. I don't have hard figures on that, but that's definitely a fact. We do, and that's from what they're having there. So I think if we can tie into what they were already getting in the visitors, I think that it would be a great idea.
Let me make a comment. When we have a policy asking for all the nonprofits, we ask them to come, when they come to present themselves, tell us what you did with the money we gave you last year. How did you spend it? What do you propose to do with the money you're asking for this year? So if we could answer those two, I can't answer what they did last year because they didn't give any, but simply, what are you going to do with the money we give you? That's the question I think that everyone might be asking right now. Alderman Mann, you recognize?
Yeah, so if we put them, there's only so much of the pie, right? And right now it's divided. South Jackson, the Chamber, I forget the others I was looking at. But so we put them in there, that's going to be less funding to the ones that are already on there. Is that?
Or you would have to be less funding to the city, because the city picks the rest of it falls into the general city budget for whatever.
And for that, we would have to go into reserves at this point, correct? Or would we have to find it?
Or take it out of something else.
Take it out of something else. Gotcha. Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Okay, Alderman Berry.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of great new things out there that people would love for the city to invest into. I don't know that that's fair. I hate to just kill it. So I'll make a motion to postpone, and if they want to come to the next meeting to talk about their organization, what they want to do with the money, how much money they're seeking, what their visitor count looks like, you don't want to say dance for your money, but tell us why. Tell the citizens of Tullahoma why you need this money and how that money. So I would make a motion to postpone until next meeting.
They did actually present, when everybody presented, remember? They presented then, but certainly, as far as...
Or just give us like visitor count, give us some of that, and let's decide at the next meeting is what I'll make a motion to postpone until next meeting.
We have a motion to postpone. Need a second? Seconded by Mathis. Any further discussion? Vote yes to postpone, no to not postpone. The vote is 5-1 to postpone. Okay. Moving on to Alderman Berry, you have a motion we need to consider.
Do we need a vote on the motion in a second?
You have a motion on the custom price.
Oops. I think we need a motion and second to get it on the floor. There we go. Did it get cleared?
There it is. It's on there.
Yeah, we're good.
It's not clear. We have your motion and a second. Present your motion.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say. I think we've hashed this over a lot. It's been 133 days. We really don't, we're postponed kind of indefinitely. I agree with the statement that he did. I don't know whether she wants to come back or not, but we are paying somebody to be on leave and we don't know why, how long, or if it's even justified at this point. So I also don't think that we necessarily originally had the authority to do it. I think that we overstepped. That is a city administrator personnel issue, and so I think that I hate saying direct the city administrator to reinstate, but I would say, this motion is to give him the authority or blessing back to make that decision. But I think we've hashed over this enough, but
Is that in this motion for him to reinstate or to give him the opportunity to do so?
Give him the chance to reinstate.
The motion is, okay, you made your motion, you got a second. Alderman Mann?
I'd like to make an amendment to this, hopefully one that we can all get behind, instead of having these votes and not getting anywhere on this matter. So what I would like to see, and what my amendment is to bring this board, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, back to being in line with the chain of command of our city government and the city personnel regulations, where the city administrator handles all personnel matters to keep consistent with this. I move that we direct interim city administrator Kenny Pearson to take whatever actions he deems appropriate and necessary regarding the status of Human Resources Director Costa Bryce.
We kind of had a motion on top of a motion here.
That's an amendment to the motion.
That's an amendment.
I think they're saying the same thing, though.
So we have the amendment. Does everyone understand the amendment?
The amendment is we're directing him to do whatever actions he sees fit, not telling him to go one way or the other, but handing that authority back to the city administrator where it belongs.
Any further discussion? We'll vote on the amendment.
Does the amendment need a second?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Did you second?
Yeah, he did.
I did.
Okay. You got a second? Let's vote to. That passes 6-0. Interim City Administrator Pearson, you have your charge. Thank you for your amendment. We have one other thing to vote on, that's the ordinance.
We need to vote on that as amended. We made an amendment.
Yeah, vote on the motion as amended.
Well, we do need to vote on the motion as amended.
Yeah.
Ready to vote?
What's a big charge, Kenny?
Ready to vote on the motion as amended? And that passes 6-0. Now we'll go to ordinance number 1595, an ordinance to reconsider the rezoning.
Are you going to speak on this?
Alderman Mann, you made this motion, to add this to the agenda.
Yes, I think there's part of ordinance 1595 that we probably all agree on, but there's part of it that we've probably overstepped our bounds on and that needs to be fixed. So basically what this is since I voted in the affirmative, to rescind that vote, and so that we can vote this down, vote that ordinance, repeal that ordinance, and then hopefully set or give instructions to set a study session so we can find a way to do this the proper way, the right way, and a way that'll make everybody happy.
And hopefully with some guidance from our city attorney. Yes. Alderman Glick, you recognized?
I don't think I have a statement. I have a question here. Can we, I think we could all agree on a lot of what's in that ordinance. What I'm wondering, can we just amend the current ordinance, or do we have to throw out the whole thing? My idea is if we keep it as the Board of Appeals, but have the Board of Mayor and Aldermen appoint a Board of Appeals and not act as that board themselves. That's what, if we could make that change, would it make it a legal thing? And can we do that without throwing out the whole ordinance and re-voting again?
City Attorney.
I think that Alderman Mann's motion is well taken. The method whereby this ordinance was enacted was not proper because we have to go through the provision of the zoning ordinance and having a public hearing via the Planning Commission before we do this. So I think rather than try to amend this and patch it up, which I don't think is going to solve the problem, Mr. Glick, I think we need to actually repeal it and then start over. There is a method whereby we can accomplish what the board wants, but I think we need to go through the proper process to do that. I discovered today from Ms. Samaniego that we have two different kinds of boards of appeal already, and they're all called boards of appeal, so it's more complicated than I even thought before when we discussed this. So I think the best thing to do to accomplish the goal that the Board of Mayor wants is to start all over, and that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Berry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Juan. Also, just for as a kind of process, so this is a two-step vote, right? So we vote to reconsider the motion first. If that passes, then that motion goes back on the floor and we vote like the original motion happened again. So this will have to be a well, it doesn't have to be. If the reconsider fails.
Two votes.
Yeah, so it'll take two votes to do this. I agree with what you said. I agree with what you said. Let's get our feet under us and understand what we're doing.
We have a motion to reconsider. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Reconsider passes 6-0.
So now we would vote on what the original motion last time was, which was the second vote.
Does anyone have that handy?
It's in our minutes.
Yes, should be. Should make her put it in.
I didn't bring my glasses, so I'm not going to be able to read this.
From the minutes, we have the votes from last time, but
It's ordinance number 1595, amending Title 14 Zoning and Land Use Control, Chapter 2 Zoning Ordinance, Section 202 Board of Zoning Appeals by deleting it in its entirety and substituting a new Section 202 Board of Appeals.
and that's what we're reconsidering. And to reconsider, we want to determine whether we would delete that in its entirety and start over. Ready to vote?
So we're voting,
We're voting on the original motion from, well, it was actually a couple of weeks ago, because last week was the second reading of it.
So this will be
so we're voting to repeal the one that we did before.
Right.
kind of, sort of. So we're pretending like we're voting on that second reading again. Correct. And then an ordinance, if any of those two votes fail, then the ordinance fails. So technically, if we vote no this time, then it just dies and we go back to drawing board.
Do we need to add a provision in that motion that the item will be, that it will start the process as Mr. Worsham described, and not just leave it hanging out there? We're voting it down and we're relying upon faith for it to come back up. So
I don't know that we can do that.
I think you ought to vote on this as it is and then make another motion to reconsider that issue at another time, as a separate motion. I believe that'd be a clean way to do that.
I don't think you can amend or
It will come back up. Okay, any further discussion? You're voting yes to approve that previous amendment, previous ordinance, or to repeal. Vote no to repeal. Yes to keep. Ready to vote.
To vote no to repeal it.
That's not.
Yeah, no, the motion needs to be the exact same motion as last time.
That's correct.
That's not what's up here.
Well, I can't type it all.
Oh, yeah. I was just making sure.
But this says to amend it by deleting it in its entirety.
And there's a lot more to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to go by faith. To amend, so there.
And it fails on a majority vote, 6-0.
Can we add an item now for the language that, what I stated?
Take 2/3. Can we just direct them to do it on video?
Well, if two-thirds of us are in agreement.
I'd like to, for this board, to simply ask the city attorney and the city director to begin work on implementing the objective for this motion at their earliest opportunity. Just put it, and not put a date on it, but let's let them, they're professionals.
And that will start with the planning commission?
Can I proffer that we put the ball in their court to kind of sort all these things out and then have a study session where instead of just sending it to planning commission and starting that process, sort everything out there and then come back to us and we have a study session and we kind of say, they say, here's an explanation to everything. We get the game plan together and we move on that way. And that way it's just, we're all clear on everything.
I believe Mary had a comment.
Administrator, would you like to?
Yeah.
Ms. San Diego, you recognize.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. Mary Samaniego, Planning Director. It would make it easier if you would have a study session to discuss the issues so it's clear to myself and to the city attorney what goals you're trying to achieve, exactly what the issues are. Because at this point, I'm still not clear exactly what the concern is and what the issues are that the ordinance was trying to address. If it was zoning issues, if it was building inspecting issues, if it was appealing any decision by any staff member. So I want to make sure that we have a study session, if you could, to really flesh out what exactly are the issues, and then we can work on the solutions.
And I would ask that you attend that study session and participate in that study session.
I would be more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
I think that was Alderman Mann's original intention anyway.
In the, I believe without objection, we'll delete item number 23-121 to reconsider establishing staff. That's on that 1595.
It's superfluous.
Delete. Next planning commission is adjourned. Excuse me, not planning commission. Which meeting are we in? We're ready to go to the beer board. Beer board will be in session, and the public comment for the beer board. Seeing none, the consent agenda is the minutes from the June 12th meeting. Have a motion from Mathis and seconded by Fast. Seconded by Barry. Any discussion? Ready to vote?
We've got all kinds of amendments.
Consent agenda approved 6-0. There's no other unfinished business. There's no other new business. With that, your board will be adjourned. Have a great evening.
That was quick. Shall we put this down as a record?
This is a record.
This is a record here.